Welcome to the Church Communications Podcast, a podcast that celebrates church communicators that are around the world. Our podcast offers practical advice for your church communication strategy needs. And this podcast is brought to you by Katie Allred and Josh Taylor of churchcommunications.com. Welcome to the Church Communications Podcast. Today we are brought to you by Kindrid. So excited to be partnering with them. And I have Josh here with me today.
Hey, Katie.
And we're excited to talk to you today about effective ways to communicate why people should give to your church.
This is fun.
So, yeah, this is so much fun.
Because there's ways not to do it, and there's really great ways to do it. Right.
So there's got to be a better way to communicate the why behind giving at your church. So we're going to figure out the better way.
Yeah, that's figured out. You guys may have some great suggestions, and so feel free to post them in the comments because we're always up for really good ideas. But we've got a few here. One is stories. I think that's the most impactful way to do it.
Yeah, and Josh and I might know something about stories because
yes,
hopefully by the time this comes out, I'll also be a Story Brand guide.
You will be a Story Brand certified guide along with me and several other folks in this group.
Right. Yeah, so you've got a wealth of copywriting information here in the group. So
absolutely.
Story Brand is really just all about gathering good stories, like telling the story of your company or your organization, whatever it is. And so how do we gather good stories?
Yeah, so what we need to realize is most people wake up every day, they care about their own story. And so they want to, the things that happen around them, they want to know, how is this going to fit into my story? And and while this may be a little bit odd for ministry, and it may be a little bit odd when we talk about missions and things that we're doing as a part of our churches, one of the ways we want to try to communicate that is why they should be a part of this, why folks in your church should be a part of this. How does this affect their story? And we can read throughout Scripture that as we're a part of building God's kingdom, that does affect our story. Mm-hmm. That makes a massive difference in our joy and the joy that we experience in life, and the gratefulness that we have for the things around us and the resources that God gives us ultimately to serve His kingdom,
right,
and not our own. And so that's what stories are about. And so we want to share stories that people can really relate to. Mm-hmm. And so if you're doing missions, if you're doing ministry around the world, share those stories. You know, they don't need to be long stories. In fact, most people don't want to sit down and listen to a really long story. But 2 or 3 minutes of, you know, if you're doing a mission trip in a part of the country where you're in an urban area or something like this, like what's happening there? Why are we going there?
Right.
And what are the people experiencing there?
Yeah.
And what does the gospel take? What is the hope that they have in the gospel?
Yeah.
And so we want to share those stories.
Yeah. So I guess practically speaking, how do we get those stories?
A good camera.
Yeah.
An iPhone or the like.
You know, and I don't think you necessarily always have to, I don't think you always have to have a good camera. I think you can just take your iPhone and record a short video. I don't even think you have to always do a video. I think you can do it with a great image, you know, mm-hmm. take a good photo. It doesn't have to be like with a great, like you can just use your iPhone again, mm-hmm. but just record the story. You can record it in text. I think Humans of New York does a great job of just sharing stories. And, you know, but how do you ask the question? You know, what question are you asking? I think that is the better part of how you get a good story is by what question you ask and how you phrase it. So you will have to think about that for your certain circumstance, but what story are you trying to tell? So if you're trying to pitch, you have a big giving initiative coming up. Maybe it's a capital campaign, right? You're trying to build a new church building. So perhaps you have someone who's been in your congregation for years, right? You have maybe just a older member who maybe saw the church when it was planted, right? And they were part of the original building fund. How cool would it be to ask them, like, why did you give back in the 60s to build this church? And why do you think it's important that we continue to build? You know, why do you think this area is, you know, strategically positioned to share the gospel with this community? Mm-hmm. I think figuring out ways and finding the right people to ask those questions to is a big part of it. And so it's making the ask of the person, but also finding the right person.
Yeah. Hey, do you want an online giving solution that inspires generosity without blowing your church budget?
Of course I did.
Well, Kindred's offering a totally free, $0 per month online giving account and a church app for all Church Communications listeners. This is an exclusive deal just for you. You get it online giving portal plus a church app for free.
This is a special offer, so you have to act fast, all right? So do it right now. Go get on your phone. Go get on your desktop. Do it right now. All you need to do is tweet @_Kindred. That's _KINDRID, and tell them why you want giving and a church app for free. Or you can go to kindred.com. Again, that is KINDRID, not ED. They're all the E's out. Just the I's where you think there might be E's. And go to kindred.com/church communications to join.
Like Kindred, we believe generosity is one of the most powerful witnesses for the gospel that we can have. It transforms communities. That's why they created this deal. They make it affordable for you to equip 100% of your church to participate in your vision.
Remember that this offer won't last long. You have to act on it now. So don't wait. Tweet @_Kindred, _KINDRID, or go to kindred.com/church communication to save thousands on your online giving.
Do it now, because it really is a good deal.
Yeah, go do it. What are you waiting?
And with these stories, there's often a framework that I use. There's usually 3 questions that I ask that I want to get answered in these stories. So if I've got a testimonial that I'm trying to get from somebody of, for example, my wife is from Port St. Joe, Florida, and they got devastated by Hurricane Michael last year, and there's still a lot of rebuilding there. And there have been a lot of churches going down and helping the churches there rebuild, helping the community rebuild. So if I was going down there and I wanted to bring back to our church, here's what we're able to do, and here's the blessing that we are to the people in this community. I'm going to go to the pastor at my in-laws' church and say, what were you guys experiencing? What was on your hearts and your minds when all of this was happening, when you wake up the next morning and just everything is decimated? And then what were these churches able to come in and do and help you guys with? And what are you experiencing now? And they'll probably say things like, we've just been so encouraged by the people that have been coming. We've seen so much progress in rebuilding our communities. Folks are being fed and getting the resources they need to rebuild their houses and feed their children, whatever it might be. Those are the 3 things that I want to figure out. What was the problem you had? What did we help you do? And what are you experiencing now?
Right, yeah.
And so it doesn't have to be those exact questions, but that context.
Yeah, and I think that's super practical.
Yeah.
I think that's really easy and something that you can definitely apply to your church right now.
Yeah. And so, that's the framework that I use. These are, like Katie said, sharing images on especially Instagram, using an image and just giving a quick story of that person. Yeah,
figuring out ways to share it on social media so that you can send it throughout the week. So I would, even a special time on a Sunday morning from the pulpit, if you get them to share live, I think is also just as special as making a video about it. And so, but figuring out ways that you can extend it throughout the week, of taking photos, of sharing video, just reminding people about why we're giving and who we're giving to, I think just really encourages people to live a life of stewardship.
Yeah. One of the things that we have here is like a ministry missions fair. One of the things that we did at the church I was at was, we supported a lot of parachurch organizations in the community, and we would have them come one night, and they would set up like a fair, like a job fair. They would have their tables and displays, and one of the things that it would do is it would allow them to recruit volunteers from our church, which is always great. But it would also, we would give them an opportunity to talk about their ministry in front of everyone, and so they would have maybe 5 minutes to talk about what they were doing in the community, and it would get other people either really excited about what they were doing, or for the first time hearing about, wow, I didn't even know this organization existed.
Right, because giving isn't just about money, it's also about time.
Yes.
Right, so...
And honestly, I think if you can get people to volunteer,
if you
you're more likely to get them to give.
Yeah, if you can get them to give their time, then they'll be more likely to give their resources.
Yeah, and that's where I would start. If you're trying to edge people into giving and being good stewards of their resources, teach them to be good stewards of their time first. Because I promise you, people that are not volunteering most likely are not giving financially.
Right.
And a lot of your volunteers are probably more willing to give financially if they were more aware of the needs and we're challenged to do that.
So what shouldn't we do when we're trying to effectively communicate giving at a church?
Make sure if you're going to ask for something, so if you're going to have a project, maybe it's a building project, maybe it's, we need a new bus or we need a new van, make sure your why resonates with people.
Right.
So here's an example. We all know about this. We see it going around. We've got the $60 million or $160 million jets that people
Pastors
are asking for.
might buy, or preachers with
and they think they have a very practical and very spiritual why. And here's their why. They don't want to get in this long tube full of demons.
Right.
How can they do ministry that way to travel all across the world? Well, that resonates with about 0% of people in our churches. That's not a very good why. And so make sure your why is, if you need a new bus, what are you using that bus for? We are bringing disabled people. We're going around and picking them up, or we're going around and picking children whose parents don't come to church, and we're going to pick them up. We're getting people to the church and getting involved. You may have some really great whys. Make sure that whatever your why is resonates with the people, and it makes sense.
Or the bus helps us save money.
Ultimately,
over time, it makes financial sense. So
it could be, and those are very practical. They can be very good practical whys,
right?
Or they can be very good spiritual whys. Just make sure they make sense and let people know why. We're not just buying a bus because we want to have a cool bus wrapped with our name all over it. Like it helps us save money, or it helps us do ministry, whatever it might be. But don't just say, "Hey guys, we need a new bus," because most of the people in there are like, "Why?"
Yeah. And I just want to take a moment to shout out to Kenny, who gave us a practical tip of sharing an infographic with your church via like an email, just talking about your giving and where it goes and who it affects. I think we don't use enough infographics in the church. You could print it and put it in the bulletin, stuff it into the bulletin or something. Just making an infographic, just talking about your giving and where it's going, some pie charts. People love, some graphs and stuff every once in a while.
Canva is a great place to do that.
Yeah, it's so easy. It's free for nonprofits. You can sign up. So
I would totally agree with that. Great input, Kenny.
So I think that's everything.
No, that's good. If you've got other ideas on how you've helped people invest in your ministry and share those stories, we'd love to hear them.
Yeah, leave us a comment, shoot us a tweet, tweet us, and just let us know if there's any other ways that you have effectively communicated about giving in your church, because we'd love to just learn more. You can join us on churchcommunications.com. You can find us on the Church Communications Facebook group. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Bye.
Friends at Kindred are being crazy generous. If you tweet @_Kindred, again, that is @KINDRID_Kindred, and tell them why you need a church app, they'll make sure you get one of those too for free. Okay? Did you hear that? Online giving and a church app for free. Just tweet @_Kindred and tell them why you need a church app.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Church Communications Podcast with Katie Allred and myself, Josh Taylor. If you like our show and want to know more about us, check out our website, churchcommunications.com. You can also join us on our Facebook group. Just search for Church Communications on Facebook, and we would love for you to leave a 5-star review on iTunes.